hear this, you are not alone. This is the resistance.
Where is all the extra money going? You know, they say that we're in the latter days, the end of days. This is it. This is the times depicted in Revelations. Why isn't that money going towards defending the Christian people against the onslaught that is coming from the satanic rule that's coming? You know, the mark of the beast, the killing off of the Christians, and all that shit.
This is where the parts of religious faith is very interesting, because in the last days, just about every faith has agreed, and they don't even know that they've agreed to this. You really got to look into that. You got to look into what their individual end days doctrines are. But most of them, and almost all of them, there's only a few that don't believe this, but they don't. There's not going to be a church on the earth that's going to be pleasing to whichever God that you choose to believe in at that point. Like, that's what's screwy. Like, when it's all done, like, the Muslims will be numbered, many, but it's because they'll be all over the world. But there'll be great death, and we're seeing that already. That's already happening. That's not news to anybody. The Christians and the Jews will be persecuted alike. The servants of Allah and the Christians and the Jews will be all persecuted alike in the end days. And it's a very devastating thing to wrap your head around, because you're like, that means we're all wrong. No matter which one of us declares to be the right one, there'll be members in every sect that are going to go down, because we all screwed up along the way.
Yep, we allow this. This isn't happening by divine intervention.
I believe in a savior in general. Because that's what people don't really get with the whole Jesus story. The Jesus story is that Jesus saw us. They saw us 100 years ago, a couple hundred years before that he had seen, and he had died for all the sins of mankind.
Yeah.
Like that's an interesting thought too. That's what's granting free reign on the planet.
Yeah, but it doesn't keep us from fucking up. And
exactly. No. That's what's granting it to us. People are being what you call self-righteous, I think would fit here. They're being so self-righteous, they know. It's almost like they know that Jesus paid for the sin, so they don't give a fuck. They're going to cash the check anyway.
Yeah, I'm going to do whatever the fuck I want, and Jesus will forgive me. That's what's landed us in the end days. If the end days do in fact exist as per biblical prophecy and religious teachings are concerned, if we are in fact coming to the end of days, it is not because of divine intervention, but because of our own actions, because we have been selfish, arrogant, and stupid. We have allowed ourselves to fall into this fucking hole.
Yeah, we let it happen. And it's not me that let it happen, or you, or even me and you and 5,000 people. It's this entire race. In order for this to become so desolate, the amount of people participating in this has to be huge. Like, that's what's interesting about all of this, is like, we really dropped the ball as a human race. We just dropped the ball. We can fix it. Excuse me. I can't even begin to explain how. I just know that we can. It's one of the things that makes us special. It's one of the reasons why we were quote unquote granted dominion over the earth and all of these things. And people, like, they don't understand exactly how close Christianity and Islam is. Like, we have all the same freaking prophets. Yeah, people don't want to wrap their head. They don't want to believe that part. Okay, and they need to realize that from Adam all the way to Christ, Islam believes in those prophets. And then the only difference that Islam has is in doctrinal differences, I should say, is they don't believe Jesus rose from the cross after his crucifixion. Okay, I'll give that to them. Remember when I said in one of my videos, I want a true and honest doctrinal debate, and not because they believe this or that. Okay, well, believing that Christ did not resurrect off the cross is a big one. That's a big doctrinal debate. That becomes something that's interesting to look into, because that's what separates them. But then they also have a similarity. They both believe that Christ is going to resurrect at the end, and lead God's army, chosen army, in the end days. Muslims and Christians have the exact same. Actually, I would fare to say this, that if you were really to interpret the Quran and throw revelations on that with a little bit of Doctrine and Covenants, section 88, I believe it is, where they cover the end times,
Yeah.
you will walk away with an understanding of the end times quite wow. And we haven't even busted into the Jewish Torah yet, or anything of that nature where it's explained to them.
Yeah.
Understanding that is where that's when I realized what's happening to the world. And I can't scream it to the world loud enough for them to understand it. But it's a manufactured end-days zeitgeist. Someone,
Exactly.
a heck of a lot more intelligent than myself, has done all the research already that I'm doing now. There's people that have been doing this for 60-plus years. The economic strain that's put on the people is only one aspect. Money is a weapon. It's not a commodity. We need to know this. Money is a weapon. When we understand money to being a weapon, and we have things like HARP that can weaponize the weather, and then we have things like Monsanto who can quite literally just wipe out and diminish the food supply on a whim. That's a weapon. They have weaponized weather, weaponized food, and weaponized currency. These are the weapons that the big boys play when they go to UN. People say, no, that's not how it is. No.
That's exactly how it
The
is.
United States decided to go to war with Iraq, and it was deemed an illegal war. I'm not talking Afghanistan, which was sanctioned by the UN. I'm talking Iraq alone. When the United States decided to tote it up and say, we're going in, Canada said, no, we're not. And not only that, we're not selling you our water. A trade commodity was pulled off the table as a consequence to the United States action. And not a lot of people want to wrap their heads around that too much. You went to war in a desert country, and we said no water for you.
Yep.
So there was no prolonged occupation. There was only one other military option. Bomb the snot out of it, because I don't have enough water for my troops. People don't want to look how deep this goes. Now look what we've done to Iran, for instance. What are the sanctions there? Like,
Yeah.
I work with reptiles as a business, personally, and I can't sell a snake to Iran because Canada has trade sanctions, nothing in or out. The United States has nothing in or out. So they're hoping that they're going to hurt Iran with this trade sanction. That's got to be the biggest smokescreen I've ever seen. Have you ever looked at Iran? You pay close attention to what is there. It's got grass, it's got water, it's got land, it's got mountains, it's got oil. It doesn't need anything from us. And to boot, Iran is friends with China, and China and Russia are really good friends. There is nothing that we can do on an economic standpoint that's going to hurt Iran or even scare Iran. It's the biggest public smokescreen I've ever seen in the research of what I'm doing. Iran is an ecological equivalent to Canada. Canada has everything it needs. It has its own wood, its own water, its own oil, its own natural gas, fisheries, our hunting, our farming. We have everything that we need. We could cut ourselves off from the world and not worried about it. Iran can do the same thing. The United States was able to do the same thing for a very long time, but there was a mismanagement of resources because one of the presidents said, well, we're just going to sell arms to both sides of the war. That's how we're going to make our money. And then by having the arms and selling to both sides of the war, I'm going to impose that they need the most valuable resources on the earth. It was then imposed that has to be sold under your currency. So it's some pretty crazy shit. And that's what the economists are going to learn. And then when they get into the Kabbalistic, Luciferian depopulation agenda, this very, very desolate and dark theory, they're going to have no choice. Because something happens here. This is another reason why we've always said the religious connotation is important. Is that what happens is that they find the dark side. And by finding the dark side, an unfortunate reality is there must be a light side. There must be somebody out there doing something that's opposite to this.
Yeah, the whole balance of the universe.
Right, but what's happening here on the quote-unquote good side of the fence? How many denominations exist now?
On Christianity's side, 42,000 plus.
See? Now, the one thing the bad guys already figured out, their networking skills are far more superior than ours. At least they're all working towards the same goal, I guess is the point.
Yeah.
And the point might be moot, but that's what we need to look into. That's why these religious people that are doing good things need to really be said, yes, you're doing good things, and we want to be involved with people that are doing good things. And once you get the faith-based structure involved, this is why twwrn has never shied away from the faith-based structure.